Christine Zellers with Rutgers Cooperative Extension of Cape May County, and I have with me today co-hosting Fong Pommier, who is also with Rutgers Cooperative Extension, Family and Community Health Sciences Department, and she works with us as a consultant. Before we get started today, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background. Rutgers Cooperative Extension is part of the Rutgers, New Jersey Agriculture Experiment Station. Rutgers is a land-grant university, meaning it has cooperative extension services throughout the state of New Jersey to support the community with educational information that's scientifically research based. Rutgers Cooperative Extension is a partnership between the Board of County Commissioners, Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, and the USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture. And we have faculty and or staff in 21 of the 21 counties in New Jersey. We're composed of 3 departments, including Agriculture and Natural Resources, 4-H and Youth Development, and Family and Community Health Sciences, or FCHS as we call ourselves. FCHS provides outreach to New Jersey and beyond on topics related to nutrition, chronic disease prevention, food safety, and overall well-being. We hope that you'll visit our websites for nutrition and wellness related resources and follow us on social media. At the end of the presentation, I'll provide you with some contact information with websites and social media handles so that you're able to reach us if you so desire. Today's topic is going to be meatless meals for the Lunch and Learn, and we start promptly at 12:15 and we finish hopefully promptly at 12:45. If you have any questions, you're welcome to put them into the chat and we can answer them at the end, or if Fong has an answer for you that she can supply, she'll do that for you. Oh, not advancing. Now we're advancing. So in accordance with federal law and U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, civil rights regulations and policies, this institution is prohibited from discriminating on the basis of race, color, national origin, sex, age, and disability. All right, so let's hop into meatless meals. Today's objectives are to understand the benefits of a meatless meal. We're going to discuss how to incorporate meatless meals into daily eating habits. And then we're going to talk a little bit about creating meatless meals. And obviously, since we're virtual, we're not going to be making any meatless meals together or sampling any meatless meals together. But following the presentation, I'm going to email you resources, a lot of resources with a bunch of meatless meal recipes and places to go for meatless meals and a little bit more information about eating meatless. So I did notice when I emailed out in the registration list, that's the list we take to do the emails, that there were about 6 people who had incorrect emails in the registration. So you will not receive those if your email is incorrect. And if you think you might be one of those 6 people, then reach out to me so that you can get the recipes and I can send them along to you, because I don't want you to miss out on that if that's something you really want. So today, before we start the conversation, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background information as a point of context. There's several ways that you can eat meatless. And today we're going to be discussing meatless meals. So just, here and there. But I did want to mention, there are people that engage in meatless lifestyles, and I wanted to explain those so you had an understanding of the differences. So people who are vegetarians usually engage in predominantly plant-based eating all of the time. This presentation, like I said, is going to differentiate between a meatless meal, and a meatless lifestyle. A vegan, who's listed there at the top, vegans don't consume any products made from animals or the byproducts of animals. So they don't eat fish, they don't eat red meat, pork, or poultry. They also don't consume eggs or dairy. Furthermore, they do not consume any products made from animals. So for instance, they don't eat honey because that comes from bees. They also don't wear leather, silk, or wool, and any byproducts of animals. So they don't use any animal byproducts for body care as well. So they don't eat, they don't use anything that has like shampoo or lipstick that might have animal products in it. There are also different types, so they're vegans to separate them out. And then there's also different types of vegetarians. So there's, a vegetarian, which according to the American Dietetics Association, a vegetarian diet is defined as one that does not include meat, including fowl or seafood or products containing those foods. And then to break down the different types of vegetarian, there's a lacto-vegetarian, who's a person who doesn't consume meats, but does consume dairy products from an animal, which would include like cheeses or yogurt or milk. An ovo-vegetarian eats eggs in their plant-based lifestyle, but not red meat, poultry, seafood or dairy. And then, as you might conclude, a lacto-ovo vegetarian eats eggs and dairy with a plant-based diet, but still leaves off the meat. And then a pescatarian is a person who consumes seafood, but not chicken, pork, or beef, and then engages in a plant-based diet otherwise. I told my son that I was going to try to undertake a pescatarian diet, and he said, "Mom, I thought we were Methodist." That's my joke of the day. So it's confusing with all the different names, and it does almost sound different, you know. So then a pollitarian is a person whose dietary pattern is focused on plant-based food and chicken only. And some of those folks that are pollitarian do consume dairy and eggs. And then those who eat a plant-based diet with chicken and seafood only are considered pesca-pollitarians. We need to say that one 5 times fast. So finally, the last one are flexitarians, which are people who eat mostly a vegetarian diet, but they do allow meat and seafood in their diets occasionally. And this allows for more flexibility than a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle, so they can still add the meat in once in a while. So while all of these options have various inclusions or exclusions of animal products, the important thing to consider is that when eating any dietary pattern, you should eat whole foods that are high in vitamins and minerals. So for example, to quote my colleague, Sarah Elkanib, soda and ketchup are meatless options, but that doesn't mean they're healthy options. So we want to make sure that we try to stick with those healthier options when eating meatless or any dietary plan. I also want to caution you that when you undertake any dietary changes, you should consult a physician, and also make sure that you're doing the change so that it includes all 5 food groups as part of your diet. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in a little bit. If you remove all animal protein, make sure that you're eating a plant-based protein like beans or legumes. So you want to remember to, if you're removing something, to replace it with something that's healthy, that you're still getting what you need out of it for your body. Also, make sure not to go overboard on one food group. So I've talked to a lot of people who all of a sudden decide that they're going to be vegetarian or vegan, and they don't really eat plant-based protein. So they don't eat beans or legumes. And in turn, they fill up on carbohydrates because they need something to fill themselves up. So instead of eating the plant-based protein or the animal-based protein, they're eating a lot of carbohydrates. So we want to try to make sure it's balanced, like I said before. While Americans do usually get enough protein, it's often animal-based protein in our diets. So make sure to move that plant-based lifestyle so that you're still incorporating that plant-based protein. According to the dietary guidelines for Americans, a healthy vegetarian dietary pattern can be achieved by incorporating protein from foods from plants. The vegetarian diet pattern is higher in soy products like tofu and other processed soy products, beans, peas, lentils, nuts, and seeds, and whole grains. So if you're thinking about making a dietary lifestyle change to plant-based, like some of the lifestyles that we talked about here on the screen, try to formulate a well-balanced diet before you make a drastic change all at once. You know, so maybe try incorporating meatless meals here and there and seeing how that goes. All right, so moving on. Now that we know all about what a plant-based dietary pattern looks like, let's look at what meatless meals actually are. So meatless meals allow you to still enjoy eating animal protein.
Great weekend.
Wow, I think we need to mute somebody. Can you find that, Fong? And thank you. Meatless meals allow you to still enjoy eating animal protein while cutting back on alternating plant-based meals. So this means moving the main protein from animal protein to plant protein in a meal. We'll discuss in a little bit about how we can do that pretty easily. But, you know, again, like if your main focus of a meal is usually, you know, if you have your protein, like say it's chicken or something like that, or if you do tacos, maybe you can use bean and rice. That's what I did last night. Like instead of having the taco meat, I just had beans and rice for my taco. So you can think about making that shift. Eating plant-based meals can be cost effective too, because plant-based proteins cost much less on average than the animal protein meat. So for a quick comparison of that, chicken breast, I looked this up because I know the prices have really changed during the pandemic, but for a quick comparison, chicken breast runs $2.71 per ounce, and then canned beans run about 4/10 of a cent per ounce. So it's a really big difference. So if you're looking to save a little bit of money in meals here and there, it's a good healthy way to do that. And then finally, meatless meals can really decrease your intake of saturated fats. And if you were involved in the fat lunch and learn that I did on fats, we talked about how we want to have less of the saturated fat for optimal health. So they can help you in that regard as well. So previously, when I was talking about the different types of diets and how to incorporate those, I talked about how important it is to maintain that food group concept in the back of your mind. So the components of a healthy meatless meal are the same as those for a meal with an animal protein, really. So think about my plate and the 5 food groups. Even when eating meatless meals, it's important to remember to include all 5 of those food groups. So of course, fruit is the fruit group, which would stay the same in a meatless situation. And vegetables, again, are vegetables, so they're still going to be meatless. But then beans, nuts, and seeds would make up the protein group. So that's where you're going to get the protein. Now there are protein found in other things, like quinoa, for instance, is a whole grain, and that has a good amount of protein in that. So, that helps to bolster protein. But, basically the beans, nuts, and seeds are what's going to replace the protein group, where you're taking the animal product out of that, the animal protein. And then obviously the grain group is still going to be the grain group. The only group that's really missing from that scenario that I set up is, if you're trying to go totally meatless or don't want to eat any animal products, is going to be dairy. And the components of the dairy product that are really important to us, like calcium, can still be in a meatless meal. You can still get calcium in a meatless meal because, for example, there's good amount of calcium in green leafy vegetables, or you can get it from things like fortified foods like orange juice, and there's some grains that are sometimes fortified, like cereals and things like that, with calcium. So you can actually replace them in that way. So going on to the next slide here. People opt for meatless meals or not eating animal protein for many different reasons. So for instance, some people eat plant-based because of the impact on the environment that raising animals has on food, on the environment. So, some people might be, wanting to conserve water. So they eat less animal-based protein to try to save the environment in that regard. That's one of the examples of how that could happen. Some eat plant-based some eat plant-based for health reasons, like avoiding saturated fat, like I mentioned already, or even some for religious reasons, and some for the way animals are treated when they're raised for food production. So they're, they want to be humane with the animal treatment, so they opt to not eat animal-based protein or animal-based food. Cost is another reason why some people don't eat animal protein at all. It is, like I mentioned before, you can save a lot of money by substituting and creating a meatless meal, and doing so in such a way that, is still really healthy for you, but you're saving a lot of money. And recently, there's really been a lot of fluctuating availability on certain animal products due to the pandemic. So people have started taking to eating more meatless meals because of the cost and lack of availability. And I know everybody ran out and bought toilet paper, but as soon as I started seeing that chicken was going to be hard to get a hold of, I grabbed up some canned beans, figuring, well, if we can't get protein, in the heat of the pandemic, then at least we could have the beans for a protein source. So, their beans are great to enjoy in a salad and replacement as a meat as well. So no matter what the reason why people do it or why you might be thinking of doing it, there are some really good health benefits to eating plant-based food. So again, if you want to work in that one meatless meal a week or something, then there's some good health benefits to that. So just by virtue of what plant-based foods are made up of, they're going to have a positive effect on the body. We know that, for instance, vegetables and fruits are lower in calories, so that's going to help with the waistline immediately and maintaining a healthy weight. And then they naturally have less saturated fat, making them better for our hearts and our heart health and our cholesterol. And then they also have phytochemicals, which, have been shown to, they, have many vitamins and minerals and all the different colors, give the colors to the fruits and vegetables. But those phytochemicals are really important in helping to reduce free radicals and reduce inflammation. And then we also know that fruits and vegetables are high in fiber, which is a object of the dietary guidelines for Americans. We know that fiber has been added in there as a needed substance. So it's important to keep our body functioning well. And since Americans don't get enough fiber, the meatless meal here and there is a great way to have that happen and add to the fiber intake of your diet. Since plant-based options have all these wonderful features, studies are really starting to target the positive effects of a plant-based diet or a plant-based meal and how they can contribute to reducing obesity, heart disease, diabetes, high cholesterol, inflammation, and even some cancers. But like I've said in my other Lunch and Learns, like other dietary factors like sugar, salt, and fat, it's not easy to prove that one thing, like eating meatless meals or like eating vegetarian or vegan, you can't really prove single-handedly that they'll protect you from chronic disease, but rather that whole well-balanced diet, which includes a variety of healthy foods from the 5 food groups. And that's really important. When you think about it, like I know sometimes people say, okay, I'm just going to eat meatless meals now. I'm going to go vegetarian. I'm going to go vegan. You have to remember, again, to make sure that that's all balanced out with healthy foods that will help you to prevent chronic diseases. So while they're trying to figure out what it is that helps us, certainly having the factors of a meatless meal is something that could definitely help to impact your overall better health. And it's a good option for you, but it can't be single-handedly determined like, yep, that's the reason. There's so many factors in both environmentally and overall diet that go into that. All right, so we're partway through now, and I'm going to put this slide up just so you can take a minute to do the evaluation. So with the evaluation, there is the ability to hold up your camera. So if you have a smartphone that's newer, you can open your pictures and hold your camera up to that QRL code, and it'll take your phone right to the questionnaire. And then also there is the ability to, excuse me, I'm so sorry, the pollen's really gotten to me today. There's the ability to go to that link, and I will put that into the chat and when I'm finished speaking completely, so you can go to it. And then I'm also going to be sending that link out. It's really helpful for you to do the evaluation for me. It only takes about 1 or 2 minutes, but it gives us an idea of where we're going and how things are going and what you all would like to see more of and what's helpful and what is not so helpful. So if you could be so kind to do that, I'd really very much appreciate it. If you don't have time to do it right now, like I said, I will send it out with a follow-up email that is coming regarding with the presentation. That will have all the different recipes in it and links in it as well. So that'll be included in that. All right. All right, so moving on a little bit, talking about creating meatless meals. And I don't know if any of you have any ideas that you want to start to put in the chat of what you use, because I know it's always helpful. And it's down to earth to hear from all of you and have you put in the chat what you do and what helps you to create meatless meals. Or any type of thing that we're talking about, because that's peer-to-peer and it really helps. So, me making suggestions is great, but if there's something that works for you, please chime in, add it to the chat, and we'll talk about it at the end of the conversation. So when you think about creating meatless meals, think about recipes that you've already used in the past, and then find ways to remove the animal protein you would usually use in that favorite recipe. So good examples I like to give for that, lasagna, right? That's a really easy one to change up. So instead of putting the meats in there, like maybe the ground beef or the sausage or whatever you usually put, you can maybe put some different vegetables in there to add flavor, like spinach or fresh tomatoes or things like that. So think about how you could substitute out that way. Another example that I love to use is chili. So chili can really be meatless very easily. You take out the ground beef or the ground turkey, and you can just use the vegetables and beans. And even some people like to add tofu. A little bit about tofu, because I'm sure this question is going to pop in the chat. Tofu is soy, which is a good source of protein. And it has really been given a bad name by the media over the years for having a link to breast cancer. But recent studies have shown that there is no real evidence that soy that's eaten by, say, young girls is associated with breast cancer. So they're doing a lot more studies on that. You know, I know that you would want to follow what your doctor recommends, obviously, but you know, tofu can definitely be a good addition to your diet that has soy in it, you know, and soy and endamane. So tofu comes in different forms, like firm, soft, and you can use them in different ways that you choose for your meal. The firm can be really good in a stir fry. For instance, it could replace chicken or shrimp. And the nice thing about tofu is it takes on the taste of whatever it's served with. So if you're adding it to a stir fry, again, it's going to taste like the stir fry. It's not going to change the taste at all, which I think sometimes people worry about. It just kind of absorbs all those good flavors from the vegetables and sauces, and it tastes like the actual stir fry. So it's not going to change that up. And another way to really change a meal, again, another suggestion could be stuffed peppers. So that's one of my favorite meals is stuffed peppers. And, you know, I grew up and my mom made it. It was a great dish, but she always put ground beef in there and maybe chopped up some onions and then put it in the pepper and covered with some tomato sauce. But what I like to try to do when I try to make a meatless meal out of it is I will either use quinoa. So I cook the quinoa ahead of time, or rice and cook it ahead of time. I mix it in with some black beans and some chopped up onions, and I stuff the pepper with that. So again, thinking in terms of what am I already eating and how can I substitute that out is a good way to create a meatless meal and start eating meatless meals here and there. Another great aspect of that is if you stock your pantry with good whole grains like brown rice and quinoa and a variety of beans and lentils, it'll be easier for you to make those substitutions. It'll be easier for you to have them because you'll have them right on hand. So, you know, when you're thinking of making meatless meals, like sometimes I'll go in the freezer and say, oh, I'll have stuffed peppers tonight. And I'll be, oh no, we don't have any ground beef. So, you know, in that event, we might have the rice or the quinoa in the cupboard, and I could substitute that out. So think about stocking your pantry in such a way that you could support making those substitutions a little bit easier. Another way to incorporate meatless meals is to just choose one day a week and make it meatless. So Meatless Monday was really popular for a while. It doesn't have to be Monday. I know Monday's sometimes a stressful day, but you know, any day of the week is fine that will fit into your schedule. And it doesn't have to be an entire day of eating meatless. You know, Meatless Monday insinuates that you're going to go the whole day. And you might want to just try doing, you know, a meatless dish and, you know, kind of incorporating that. So try a little bit and work up from there. Finally, as I always say, make sure that they're whole foods. And just like with any product, if you're eating processed foods, there's a high likelihood that it might not be as healthy as you think it might be. So they're processed foods that are, you know, advertised as plant-based. Sometimes they put things in there to make up for the taste. Just like I've explained before, when they make something low fat, they sometimes add sugar to make it better. So if they're taking out the animal products, you know, be cautious about what you're eating and make sure that it's still a healthy option. I know it's really hard to cook from scratch, but if you can make things on your own as a whole food, that's better. Or find a recipe, you know, like maybe a recipe for like black bean burgers or something like that and replacement for hamburgers, then that's going to be probably better for you than what you might buy at the store that might have some chemicals or added fat, sugar, or salt in them that are a little more processed. So just try to, you know, be mindful. Look at, I know I always say it, but look at those nutrition facts labels. Look at the contents of what is in the product that you're eating. Look at the ingredients labels and make sure what you're eating is a good, healthy plant-based item, especially if it's coming from a package. And again, it's not that difficult to substitute the things out once you get into the pattern of learning about it. So I do want to encourage you, again, I said I would send out the email. I promise that'll be coming out probably sometime early next week. And I have been researching a lot of different recipes. There's one that's going to be included. I forget the name of it, but it's an eggplant recipe that has just a bunch of vegetables. It kind of, you know, comes out looking almost like a ratatouille type thing. But it's really, really good. It uses a lot of fresh herbs and, you know, a lot of vegetables, has a lot of good taste to it. So play around with some of those meatless recipes and see, you know, what you can come up with from that. You might have to make alternates depending on what your family already enjoys. but it's not difficult. And it can, again, it can really have those health benefits. So I encourage everybody to do it and do it, wisely so that you know what you're putting into your body. These, of course, are the resources for the science-based information that I used. And then this is the contact information that I have up. If you are one of the people on the list that were unable to, I didn't get a good email from, remember I said that I had some that didn't have good email lists, and you really want to get those recipes, then please email me at thezellers@njaes.rutgers.edu and we can get you connected with the recipes. So I'm going to stop sharing now. And I know that there's some questions there in the chat. I'm also going to put, 1 second. All right, so let's look at your questions or your suggestions in the chat. I'm going to add, there's the link again to the evaluation if you need to just click on it. So it looks like we have, what is the best meatless option that is not high in carbs? So, I think right off the bat, I thought this, we had a family friend and she decided to become a vegan and she ate nothing but tomato pies from the pizza parlor. So that was like obviously a really high carb option. But, if you want to do a good, I would say rather than thinking in terms of high carb, low carb, think of in terms of good carb, bad carb. So you want to make sure that you're using whole grains like quinoa or brown rice. There's a lot of them out there. But those are the whole grains that are going to really process in your body well. And a lot of times it's not necessarily that we're eating too many carbs, it's that we're eating carbs that are not healthy for us. So, processed carbohydrates, sugary carbohydrates, those things that go into our body and burn really quick because our body wants to get rid of them. It's kind of like a roller coaster. So I always used to tell the kids, like, when you would eat a candy bar, right? You feel that kind of increase of the ride up on the roller coaster. And then your body says, oh, this is sugar. Should I have it? And it burns it really quick. It's the same kind of concept with a good carbohydrate. So make sure you're eating whole grains that are good carbohydrates for you and try filling them in that way. Fong, who is the consultant, helped me out today. She says roasted cauliflower head with sauce, tahini, taco sauce, and herbs. Oh, that's a great idea. And I think I might have somewhere. I'll have to look. I know that I had shared before something with cauliflower and roasted cauliflower. So you correct me if I'm wrong, Fong, but you would slice the cauliflower down into thin, almost like slices. And then you can put a little olive oil in there and roast it in the oven. Is that the way you do it? She said yes. And then you can sprinkle some sauce on there. So that's really good. And it's really tasty. Another option that I use all the time with the plant-based food is and you can make these as well, I get the cauliflower pizza crusts. And instead of using what they already, like the pre-made ones, I make them myself. So I get the shell to the cauliflower and then I add what I want, like the fruits and vegetables on there that I want. And I do put fruit on there because I put pineapple on there. So everybody can say ew now, but yeah, I love to do that. So that's another option that you can use too, if you want to add a meatless meal. But I think it's important, during Lent, I always would see friends at the pizza parlor because they weren't eating meat on Friday. And there are other options besides pizza to eating meatless meals. So you want to make sure that, you're integrating that in and having, a variety there. So we're right at 12:45. If there's any more questions, you're welcome to reach out to me and you can, email me or let me know. And I will have this recording. I'll send a copy of the recording if you have any questions about it, you want to rewatch it, or you want to share it with somebody that's interested in meatless meals. And you will be getting a follow-up email with quite a few recipes. So if you're interested in trying to integrate meatless meals for a healthier outcome, then you'll have that at your fingertips. And I appreciate you all coming today. And just as an FYI, we are not having a June Lunch and Learn because I will be on taking some PTO, but we will be back in July with brain health and eating for a healthy memory. So please join us for that if you'd like. Have a great June and enjoy your holiday weekend, everyone.